agricultural sector. It also recognizes women, youth, and persons with disability as important groups. For women farmers to truly benefit, the program must move from good intentions to practical action. So this means that clear budget, measurable target, accessible services, timely support, and strong accountability is needed. I have with me in the studio the researcher who conducted the gendered analysis of the feed program, the Feed Ghana program. He'll be joining us via Zoom, and I have an economic justice lead from ActionAid and a representative from the Peasant Farmers Association to discuss the policy gaps in the Feed Ghana program and some of the practical changes that can make the program more inclusive, accountable, and usable to smallholder women farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, as I said, I have Professor Abazami Joseph. He is the Associate Professor of the Development Planning at the Institute for Interdisciplinary Research of the University for Development, USD, Tamale. He will be joining us via Zoom. So he's the lead researcher on the analyzing the gendered analysis of the Feed Ghana program. Then I have Ramla Kelson, right? She is a project officer and gender officer at the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, where she works to advance smaller farmers' development and gender inclusion with the agricultural sector. Then I have Justin Bayo. He's the head of programs, campaign, and innovation at ActionAid Ghana. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank
we
you.
have already started this conversation some week or two ago. We want to follow up on the discussion, but this afternoon we want to look at the policy itself. But for purposes of education, can we do a brief recap as in what the Feed Ghana project is all about? We start with Justin.
Thank you.
Just a brief in 2 minutes.
Yes, the Feed Ghana project is related to ensuring that the country is self-sufficient. It has enough capability to feed itself and to promote the concept of food sovereignty, food independence, to be able to take care of its own population. And for that matter, a specific policy is needed in that regard, so that at the end of the day, we will not continue to rely on foreign aid and foreign support in terms of our food. And it must be specifically targeted at certain institutions, certain personalities, and certain kinds of groups, women and youth, to be able to contribute in the production of food to make our country self-sufficient. Thank you very much.
So having said that, I just want to find out from Prof, if Prof is online. Prof, thanks for joining us.
And good evening to all your listeners.
We have Prof via Zoom. Prof, can you help us understand, we know that the program is more gendered analysis, so what are the main findings, if you can help us?
All right. Thank you very much. The study was commissioned by ActionAid Ghana to help us appreciate Ghana's Feed Ghana flagship program, to appreciate to what extent it considered issues of gender, and then ActionAid's target group of smallholder women, to see to what extent the policy was conscious about their varied needs in the agricultural space. Now, a careful examination of Feed Ghana program shows that women face multiple challenges that the policy is very much aware of and has articulated some measures to address them. But our review indicates that the flagship program was only able to make us know what the barriers are, which is already a known fact, but we are not seeing the concrete actions that will help us break down those barriers. And what are these barriers? That the single most important productive asset that we use in the agricultural space is land. Now, women face multiple barriers in access to land, and particularly secured access to land. Women have over the years, particularly for northern Ghana, due to the patriarchal milieu we find ourselves, women do not own land in many instances. Women can only access land through marriage and then through their children and relations, but not directly themselves. Because in some cultural settings, women are perceived to be assets themselves and so cannot own assets. And so it is always through the medium of their husbands and relations that they have access to land. Now, you would agree with me that statistics in this country show that women constitute the majority of our population. In the agricultural space, women do more than 52% of whatever work there is within the agricultural space. Now, they cannot dominate in terms of population and also be the most active agents in agriculture without having access to the most common basic productive asset, which is land. The flagship program makes provision for this, but not in the transformative way that we envisage. Because, you see, if you do not have compliance mechanisms around quotas that you set, if you do not have processes by which we can audit key performance indicators within the flagship program to indicate or for us to appreciate whether we are making progress or otherwise as far as those quotas are concerned, then there is a lacuna, because it could just be the usual lip service that is not accompanied by some concrete actions on the ground. So that is for land. But we also have issues of credit. Now, women in this country, the statistics suggest that women in this country, only 22% of women in this country have formal access to credit. The flagship program makes some effort to try to redress that, but not in the way that is attuned to the peculiar needs of women. We all know that women have a general problem with collateral. They do not have, most of them do not have landed properties. And so we are not seeing the innovation in the financial mechanisms that this flagship program is proposing in ways that would ensure that women can actually improve their access to formal credit. Now, again, if you look at the farmer service centers that have also been earmarked to be set up across the regions and districts, you see again that there is not much provision in terms of, apart from defining quotas of women's participation, it is unclear how the women are going to make some contribution towards decisions around the kinds of equipment that were procured for these farmer service centers. You know, women have peculiar needs when it comes to agricultural mechanization. And so their input to decisions around what kinds of mechanization would be best suited to their needs and interests is very key. We don't see much of innovation within that setting. And the situation is further made very precarious when you look at the kinds of governance mechanisms that have been put in place to ensure the smooth operation of Feed Ghana program. We have farmer service center boards, national oversight committees, and technical implementation committees that have not made it very clear how women are going to be part of these committees that are taking the critical decisions in terms of what will happen on the ground. So here again, you see that quotas mean nothing when women do not have adequate representation within these governance systems, where all the critical decisions that are needed for their effective participation can be guaranteed.
So, Prof,
yes,
you can hold on for me. You have mentioned quite a number of things. So then, what can be done? Especially when you're talking about the innovation, because I quickly want to come back to studio where we can have our guests also having some input. So in a minute, what do you think can be done, especially in terms of the credits that you're talking about? That is, there is no innovation around it. Does this policy addresses that? Or after the findings, what do you think can be done?
So in respect of credit, what we are thinking is that government, first of all, needs to think around the kinds of financial mechanisms that work best for women. Over time, various development projects have demonstrated that village savings and loans associations are important vehicles for driving a lot of innovation in terms of credit within the agricultural space. Now, there is not much that we see within this flagship program that speaks to how government is taking advantage of these village savings and loan associations where women constitute over 80% of the population in most instances. You see, because within these mechanisms, they operate based on social capital and then also collateral-free credit facilities that we don't very much see within Feed Ghana program flagship. And so what are we saying? Can we begin to think around innovations that center on collateral-free credit because of our recognition of women's inadequate access to landed property?
Okay, Prof. Prof, I'll come back to you. I know you have a lot to tell us this afternoon, but let me come to the studio and then let me have the thoughts of our guest here as well so that the conversation will be interesting, right? Prof has mentioned land, that is out of the fundings. He has mentioned credit. And I saw Ramla nodding, especially when he mentioned the village service thing, savings and loans. You're a peasant farmer. I would come to Justin to talk about the policy, but since he has mentioned some few things, I want to find out, how do you see this thing that he's talking about? How does it help women, or how will it help women if we have such an innovation?
No, women contribute majority of production in Ghana. So if we are supporting women farmers, that means that we are bridging the gap of having less production and all that. Access to land is one of the key challenges that women face, as Prof stated. And in part of the country, especially in the northern part where we have a lot of challenges with women accessing land, it's a challenge. Even when they're able to access the land, it's not secured. Okay. Because you farm it this season and the next season it is taken away from you.
Why?
Because you don't have probably the right to own it. So it is not owned.
I heard you mention about unless through marriage or something.
Yes,
so if it means that if you are not married, you will not get the land.
Or it can be with other relatives, like a brother, uncle, or something. Or you can even, sometimes you get these smallholder farmers getting to traditional leaders to apportion certain lands to them. Okay. But these are not secured.
Okay, so it means that the next time you realize that if you have probably bad blood, the thing is taken away from you and given to another person.
Yes, so even those that are able to access this land, renting them is expensive. Okay. So it becomes expensive for them. Even buying the land is also expensive for them. So these are, I really side with Prof about the issues. The program doesn't really spell out how women can really benefit. Yes, it has mentioned farm banks that can provide a number of facilities within that, but it doesn't even tell us what proportion of that land is going to be given to women. So maybe if we are giving 100,000 hectares, we should at least have a quota that 30% of that land should have 30,000 hectares should be given to women, but we don't really see the specifics in the program. So these are some of the things. Yes.
Justin, let's talk about. I saw you nodding as well. If you can add something, then let's talk about the policy. What is the policy all about?
Yes. The policy is something that is a bit. It has both sides. It has the good side, right. And then of course the other side, in as far as supporting very vulnerable groups are concerned, in particular women. And you know, when we are talking about women and vulnerable groups, we are talking about the principle of equity, and then also ensuring that there's intergenerational equity. In this instance, we want to make sure that the policy does not leave anyone behind, and for that matter, women. If you look at the policy, as she indicated, it is something that is broad. It is generally targeting everyone, but not women-specific. And for us, that is an issue we need to be talking about, because it becomes very difficult for you to even do any form of tracking to see what particular support the policy is bringing to get women on board and to help them. And we cannot deny the fact that when it comes to the production of food in Ghana, women cannot be left out. Right. They are playing a very big role, and for that matter, at the end of the policy, we should be able to say, this is the amount of support we're able to give to women, to be able to access land, to get credit, to be able to produce and to get to market. And it was as a result of this policy. And if that has not been incorporated in the policy, then for me, that is a big challenge.
How far have you gone with the policy, and when are we ending, if you can help us?
For now, I think it's in the second year or so. Okay. And so definitely we would have to look at how we can look at a midterm revision of it, and then take on board some of these findings that we have brought out of this report, and then be able to make it more gender-friendly and gender-focused. So at the end of the day, at least we can have something to show.
We need to sustain the policy.
We need to, at the end of the day, to sustain it. It's a good policy if you read it, but these are the shortcomings that we have found out through this particular research.
Okay, so let me go to Rama. If women farmers are already feeding Ghana, as you all know, and we're saying that what must change in the feed program to make it better to support them, apart from the land, apart from the credit?
So we should be intentional about supporting women. I keep saying this. We should be deliberate about it. So we should have clear budgets that is going in for women. We should have clear targets. So, for instance, when I said the 100,000 hectares, we should have maybe 30% of that piece of land is going to only women. We should have that. We should also ensure that women are part of the decision-making spaces. The Prof mentioned the various committees, that is the National Oversight Committee, the technical part and all that. We also have those at the decentralized level, where we have a number of members who are part of a task force at the regional and even the decentralized level. We should have women being represented in these spaces so that they can let their voices out, they can be able to voice out the issues that they are facing in ways that can also benefit them. So I think these are some of the measures that I think would be very useful.
Justin, what can change? Yes. What must we change?
As part of that, you see, it's not the matter of just consulting with them at the end of the program. You must be able to consult with them throughout the process of it, so that you're able to get their inputs and bring it on board as far as women are concerned. And then we are also talking about the fact that when you talk about equity, women is still a very broad area. You have to further segregate them into various types of women. We have those who are women who are peasant farmers, those who are living with disability. Exactly. We have women, youth, and then you also have women, of course, who have certain disabilities and issues. So you should be able to disaggregate the kinds of support that each and every group within the overall women's group need, so that you can target them with the right kinds of support.
The program has started already. But with all these findings that is coming in, do we have anything or any idea or any means to reach it out to the formulators of the policy? Any plans?
Yes.
There's an office, a secretariat for that. So we have the Feed Ghana coordinating office for that. Okay. So they will probably receive
whatever
these
findings we have.
And for instance, Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, currently we are rolling out a monitoring survey on the Feed Ghana program. It has been implemented since last year, 2025. So we are looking at the 2025-2026 planting season, how it has gone with farmers. And it's something we are doing that once we get the result, surely we are going to communicate with the ministry, and then they will see how they can review the program.
And that should be best.
Yes.
Justin, add up, and then I'll go to Prof. Yes. In 2 minutes, Prof. To make it shorter for us when you're answering our questions, so that people, the studio guests too, would also have a share. Justin will do that. And I want to find out from you, as you said, what must change in the feed program to make it better, support women? And then your next question will be translating these changes. How can we translate them into real life and not only on paper? So I'll come to you shortly. Justin, just 1 minute here.
At least it's one of such steps.
Exactly.
We have already undertaken a number of validation workshops with various women's groups and various agencies within the government. Because sometimes when you do a research, the assumption is that what you have found out is the truth until you validate with those on the ground and get their input. That has been done.
And
the next step,
yes,
the next step will then to carry the inputs that we have gathered from the ground and incorporate into the overall research, and then we go seeking the duty bearers, those who must respond and we know them already because we have already done the consultations with them prior. And then we send it over to them. There will be various methodologies to adopt when we are dealing with them. It could be one-on-one. It could also be through certain meetings that we will use to get the research over.
And
but
this
it
is a bigger
not
platform that they are hearing, and that things can work out.
Yes.
So, Prof, help us with how the change can be done to support women better. And the second question is, how can we translate all of these changes into real life situations and not only on paper?
Thank you very much. I think that the beginning of all of this is for us, first of all, when we were conducting this research at the time, the Feed Ghana program, they hadn't completed the resource framework for the entire program yet. And so it was not very clear what kinds of gender disaggregated data and key performance indicators they were going to look at in terms of the results that we are expecting for the crop sector, livestock sector, tree sector, and then the innovative financial mechanism sector, the farmer service centers, as well as all other related components. Now, without key performance indicators with specific gender disaggregated data that demonstrates what budget lines or ring-fence resources are being tied to the kinds of quotas that we have spelled out for each of these sub-programs. We will not be able to tell in a good way what is going where and who is benefiting, and to what extent we can say there is proper targeting of our smallholder women farmers. I think that when this is done properly, then the next thing is, how do we also ensure that there is a gender audit of these KPIs within the resource framework, so that we see if indeed there is even some measure of compliance. This also means that we need to actually give our women in agricultural development units and directorates some measure of enforcement capacity, so that they are able to track whatever is happening under each component and to report on an annual basis or quarterly basis or semi-annual basis, so that we see whether whatever allocations government is giving to each of these components, whether they are translating to the ground, and whether it is impacting various targeted groups or otherwise. Until then, this would always be the usual policy that will run, and then when it ends its term, then a new one comes. We are not really looking back to seeing what went well, what didn't go well, and what we need to do going further.
But what that you're saying, I'm sure that by these means, you're going to really monitor the program to the latter.
Absolutely. Monitoring is key. Monitoring, evaluation and learning are key to the success of every program. And so if there is a weak link within the MEL framework, then you can be sure that all else cannot function properly.
All right.
And so I would push for a strengthened monitoring, evaluation, and learning framework.
Okay. Rama, let's talk about the realities. How can we put all of these into practicalities, real life, and not letting them be on paper?
Okay, so in terms of access to land, we will need to encourage our traditional leaders, because they are the custodians of our lands. We need to encourage them and sensitize them on the importance of women actually accessing secured and affordable lands. That's one of the things we should also be looking out for. And in terms of finance, I know the government is looking at the Women's Development Bank. In the 2026 budget, that's apportioned some funds to it, but as to how the bank is going to operate is not too clear. Whether it's going to be a physical structure that is there, or it's going to go through some commercial banks, we are not too clear. But if you're able to establish this bank, then women farmers can also greatly benefit from that as well. And in terms of marketing, we should also be looking at how we can create the connections between farming communities and the consuming centers or the various markets. So we're talking about infrastructure. The roads construction is very key to that. And we should also be able to support with some processing facilities and storage facilities for these women so that they can greatly benefit from it. They're having challenges in production, and at the end, even when they're able to produce, they're still having challenges with marketing. We should be able to connect the dots and then see how we can put these infrastructure together to support them.
Before I come to Justin, share with us, you are a peasant farmer, you are with them. What are some of that practical things that you see these women going through, apart from the monetary thing, the land, the credits? What are the practicalities on the ground when you go to the north? Share with us.
We also have the challenge of occupying these decision-making spaces. So for us to get our women's voices heard, they need to be part of those spaces. They need to be part of the planning and implementation of these programs. They shouldn't be left out. As we said, we contribute majority of the food in this country, so we should be part of those decision-making spaces. That is one. And then again, we should, in terms of finance and all that, we should be able to generally see how best we can address them. Prof mentioned the VSLs. It's something that financial institutions can capitalize on. There are a lot of women farmer groups that are into that. They can use that to support them through group lending, group lending mechanisms to support them as well. So I think that these are some of the things that I would like to.
I think with the group lending, it really goes a long way to help the women.
Yes, because they're doing it in a group, the majority of them get to benefit at the end. So
while you're using it to take care of the family, you're using it to take care of the home as well.
Yes.
We're discussing Feed Ghana, what must change for women farmers, this afternoon on Women's Voice. There has been a policy involved. Researchers have gone on, and then the call is for budget allocation. The call is for accountability. The call is for credit facilities. The call is to ensure that at least the women have that kind of land ownership to be able to do the farming better and help push the Feed Ghana agenda. I have in the studio Professor Abazimi Joseph, and then he is joining us via Zoom. Prof, I'll only call you Joseph so that I get it right. Then I have Ramla also here. She is the project officer with the Peasant Farmers Association, and I have Justin with ActionAid. So we are discussing Feed Ghana. You can join the conversation on our telephone line 0556 963637, on our WhatsApp platform 0548 711 664. You can call, you can ask us anything you want to know about the Feed Ghana project and what you think as well can be some of the things that can change. Justin, let me come back to you. What do you think are the realities, and what can we do to help change from paper? Because all of these things are, a lot of times they're on paper. So how can we make them realities, in your opinion? And probably what is ActionAid doing?
That's a double question, so I'll take one after the other. So first of all, in addition to what they have mentioned, and to move away from what we'll call paper to reality on the ground, we actually want to see a situation where there is a tremendous change, transformation in as far as the production of food is concerned for women. One of the issues is their inability to access extension services. And for that matter, it's always difficult for them to increase and improve their production. So for us, we think as part of this, the government through its various agencies, MOFA and the rest, should make sure that there are female extension workers, officers, not male, female, because they are able to understand these women and give them the needed support. And that would also help improve their production. In addition to that, they should be given regular training in whatever way possible, because you cannot continue to do the traditional way of farming and then improve. There's climate change everywhere. You need to be trained in how to handle various seeds and the rest to get the regular kind of, to improve your production. And that is what we are going to talk about. Additionally, as far as ActionAid is concerned, we are trying to ensure that there is a shift from what we call fossil fuel and chemical-induced kind of farming to agroecology, which and then ensures there's a healthy population. So we want to ensure that most of the farmers are using compost to produce, and that will also bring about a change in the kind of food products that we churn out for the market. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Yes, Adam.
I'm looking at the agroecology that you talked about. Even in the program, it's a bit silent about agroecological practices. Yes, so it's something that we need to also push for as CSOs, how we can ensure that even particularly women farmers are engaged in agroecological practice. I believe that even agriculture extension officers, they have gained trainings in these practices, so they can mainstream that into their usual trainings that they provide to women. So it's something that we should also be pushing for.
Prof, if you're still there.
So from my perspective, I think that one of the weakest links in how we translate the policy to action is in the current ongoing decentralization that has now made the district departments of agriculture part of the local government service. You would notice that these are the departments that are supposed to really make agriculture work on the ground. Now, with the new approach to our decentralization, where there are now departments of the regional coordinating councils and all that, and these assemblies, we see that if you visit most of the district departments of agriculture, you realize they are under-resourced, overly under-resourced. Now, the people who are supposed to oversee the implementation of the policy on the ground to ensure that it benefits the people, if they are under-resourced the way they are, then much of what we have planned would not work out. And the situation is exacerbated by the fact that if you see the sharing formula of the District Assembly Common Fund, you know, unlike education, health, and other sectors that have specific percentages of budgetary allocations that are dedicated to what they do, with agriculture, they have been lumped under local economic development and also within the central administrations of the district assemblies. Now, the assemblies are also overstretched in terms of resource constraints. So many times they end up ignoring the departments of agriculture. And once that happens, and that is what is actually happening, we have big issues on the ground. Much of the extension that is supposed to take place so that farmers can take advantage of is not happening. The climate information services that are supposed to reach people so that they can take more precise decisions around their timing of their farming and all that, and what kinds of crops they need to grow in light of the seasonal outlooks and all that. The district departments are supposed to be the anchors that would drive these kinds of agricultural advisory services on the ground. But in the current state in which they are under-resourced, it is very unclear how we can translate much of what is in the policy on the ground. Beyond that, we also see that the current manner in which Feed Ghana is being implemented, where rather than working through institutions of state, we have ad hoc committees and teams that are constituted from the national level that go around the regions to oversee the implementation, where we have specifically designated government institutions responsible for certain aspects of the program. You see, when we do that, we weaken our institutions and we don't realize much of sustained effort on the ground. And I think this is one key weakness that is likely to undermine the effectiveness of the impact of this program on the ground.
That is so unfortunate, but I think that whilst we are having this conversation, notes will be taken, and then our inputs can be part of the policy as it stands, the middle term or short term, as Justin mentioned. But I just want to find out, why is ActionAid looking at Feed Ghana from an economic justice perspective?
Basically, ActionAid is focused on fairness and the principles of equity. And then you cannot talk about the principles of equity without talking about justice and fairness. And that is why, for us, we always look at making sure that no one is left behind. The most vulnerable in society is always involved, especially women. And for Agric, it's not just about food production. It also has economic dimensions. It's about livelihoods, it's about income, and others. And therefore, you cannot talk about agriculture, a woman in agriculture, just from the agriculture point of view, but from the economic justice point of view. And we are talking about making sure that all the small women's farmers, smallholder women's farmers that we are dealing with, their interests and their rights are incorporated within the policy, so that at the end of the day, they would not be left out to their own detriment. Thank you.
ActionAid is talking about accountability and fairness and women equity. Amla, do you agree to that? As in, the question is, are women being equally treated for agricultural support systems or programs?
I know some national programs have provided opportunities for some women, some farmers, but probably not equally for all women farmers. If they were, then we wouldn't be here lamenting about the challenges that women farmers face. But we believe that it all boils down to how even the whole planning process of these programs starts and how implementation is done. If implementation is not done well, then it means the end beneficiaries will end up suffering from it, of which we are currently. So I believe I actually agree with the work that ActionAid is doing, and as CSOs to continue to support and always push for equity among for women farmers.
What changes will you want to see in the implementation of the Feed Ghana program?
Transparency.
Especially you being a peasant farmer.
Yes, we want transparency.
And the women out there.
Transparency is important. Let the real farmers benefit. We should have clear targets for the interventions that we are giving out. We should also be dedicating enough resources. Paul was talking about how Department of Agriculture is under-resourced. We should be able to resource them well enough so that they can support with this implementation. And then again, we should also, as CSOs, we encourage that we all get involved in monitoring and evaluating this kind of program so we can continue to give positive feedbacks to the government for review of the program.
Justin, let's talk about accountability. We spoke about equity now, so let's look at accountability. What do you think, like, the accountability measures needed to ensure that women farmers actually benefit from the Feed Ghana program?
Yes, so Prof spoke about the absence of
the budget and the credits.
Actually, the male program in place where you don't have the indicators clearly spelled out. Now, if you look at the Feed Ghana program, you realize that most of the women are mentioned in person, but no specifics are particularly included for them. So it becomes very difficult at the end of the day for you to be able to say that this and this has been sent or targeted at women. So for us, as far as we are concerned, if that is missing in the policy, then the opportunity should be made to incorporate it into the policy, so that at the end of the day, you'll be able to know that in terms of disaggregation, this is what went particularly to women, and this is how it was utilized. And that is the only way you can account and be accountable to the fact that in terms of public investment in the smallholder women farmers that we have in the country, so amount of money was given to them and so amount of support was given to them. And therefore, that will then become the most accountable way of bringing the idea before the Ghanaians as a whole.
Especially when you were talking about the women being put in categories. We have the disability, we have the women, young people, have other women.
Various categories of women. Older women, because the targets for older women will be different from
the younger people, and even the people with disabilities. Right?
So you should be able to target all of these and give them the needed support.
Prof, we are about wrapping up very soon. I just want to ask you what must change immediately for the Feed Ghana program to work better for women farmers. In 2 minutes, then I come to Just in 1 minute, yes. Prof, 1 minute will do. Then studio to wrap up for the rest.
Thank you. There should be a gender audit action plan for Feed Ghana program. You see, until we consistently and deliberately audit all the actions that are taking place on the ground, like HOB, my senior brother pointed out, there is no way we will be able to adequately track to see what is going well, what is not going well, and who is benefiting and who is not benefiting. A gender audit that is done on a quarterly or annual basis that will accumulate into probably a midterm audit and a final audit of the Feed Ghana program will give us a clear understanding of what actually happened within that planning space, and then we can tell whether or not this program has impacted our people. Until then, it will just be the usual routine, and so I would really recommend that we have an action plan for a gender audit. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. That's 1 minute. You've done well. Thank you for passing through this afternoon. So, Ramla, what must change in 1 minute, and then Justin will end with us your final words.
Okay, so I think I will still side with Prof. It's very important we look at the monitoring and then the evaluation, the male part of it. And again, I also want to say that we should effectively collaborate with the various stakeholders that are engaged in this program. We should ensure there's effective coordination, effective collaboration. And then again, I'll still continue to stress that we should have women representation in the various decision-making spaces. And we should also build the capacities of these women to be able to go in all out to ensure that their voices are being heard.
And I like the capacity bit.
Yes. Yes. It's very important so that we can continue to encourage our women to be able to take those spaces.
Exactly. Yes. Justin.
Yes, we must commend the government for coming out to the policy in the first place. But what we are saying is that the expense of public resources, without specifically targeting women in particular, will not satisfy the what is it called? The equity and justice components of what we call economic justice. We want to make sure that as far as public resources are concerned, women must be included, and there must be the ability to actually target them and verify along the way to ensure that we meet that particular responsibility of promoting equity and justice for vulnerable groups. And
women must be included in the Feed Ghana program. Ghana cannot build a strong food system while leaving women farmers behind. That is all time allow us today on Women's Voice. I had in the studio Prof. Joseph, who is the research lead, and then Justin, who is from ActionAid, and Ramla, who is also the Peasant Farmers Association. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, women, for joining us. Yes, thank you so much.
Football is not just a game.
Its work in Nasamba began in 2006 as a partner community in the local rice program number 10 in Nanumba with about 90 children under the child sponsorship program. ActionAid's child sponsorship program or sponsorship scheme is one of the key fundraising strategies for fundraising interventions such as these. Over the years, the community has been part of projects and keen interventions, including the promotion of employment opportunities for women empowerment and the Rights Project. Construction of a lower primary school block with a library and ancillary facilities, which is ongoing, to be commissioned today and under the sustainable interventions. Honorable DCE, ladies and gentlemen, the Sustainable Development Goals 4 places an obligation on all member countries or states to ensure an inclusive and an equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The education sector in every nation is the foundation of human development, productivity, and economic transformation. It is in the light of this that we do recognize and put on record that Ghana has made significant gains in achieving the universal education over the past 2 decades, with primary school enrollment increasing from 2.5 million in 2001 to 4.6 million in 2021. At the junior high school level, enrollment within the same period increased from 865,636 to 1.8 million students. Despite these aforementioned positive gains, 1 million children aged between 4 to 18, constituting 9% of the total age population of 10,589,615, have never attended school. Honorable DCE, it is worthy of note that Ghana can further improve enrollment if enough budget support is allocated to the educational sector, especially the basic education sector. This notwithstanding, the basic education budget link grants to special schools, among others, I financed, saw a decline from 290 million cedis in 2022 to 187 million Ghana cedis in 2023 budget. The danger, ladies and gentlemen, however, is that if they require resources that could lead to educational enhancement in this country declines further or continues to decline, the danger is that hidden fees may be put forward by some sectors of the education units, which may lead to some parents excluding their children or wards from accessing free basic education. It is in this regard that we put on record that government needs to continue and systematically increase funding in the educational sector to ensure that basic education units and basic education sector in the country does not suffer from low infrastructure deployment, does not suffer from low teacher retention, and so on and so forth. On this note, I want to thank the Northern Regional team, led by Esabwati, for leading the team to construct this very nice and important edifice that we are here to commission. We have no doubt Honorable DCE that this school infrastructure will go a very long way in helping to promote educational development, particularly at the basic unit in the Nasamba community, and for that matter, this district. On this note, I want to thank you all here in Gadet, but to also admonish the elders that this school infrastructure belongs to you. It does not belong to ActionAid. And therefore, we encourage you to all be good keepers of this school. Let's all ensure that the school is properly maintained and ensure that it becomes profitable for the community of today and the children yet to be unborn. On this occasion, I thank you all for coming. Thank you very much.
For this special occasion, it is important I acknowledge the presence of our chief, Nasambana, for making time with us to sit through this program. We have our ActionAid country director, who has made it all the way from Accra to this district, specifically Nasamba here, to see to the commissioning and handing over of an edifice built for our Nasamba Primary School. It's also important we acknowledge the presence of the regional director, Madam Esther, who has been in the forefront in bringing this project to us. Of course, we cannot individually mention everybody's name. But once you are here, we acknowledge and appreciate your presence. Let me use this opportunity again to, in fact, extol the hard work of our media, particularly for the advocacy work they have been doing for us as local government. In fact, they have played a pivotal role in advancing our cause. They have publicized the challenges we face in our district, more especially in education. I can say without any shred of doubt that it is through their advocacy role that we're going to have these important edifice handed over to us today. On that score, we are very grateful to them as well. Yes, I think ActionAid Ghana, we all know, is an NGO that has been operating in our district over the years. It has supported the communities in the Nanumba South for so many years in various sectors, particularly in education. Today is another day, not special, but phenomenal. A phenomenal day that we are going to witness the commissioning and handing over of a project, an edifice that is provided by ActionAid Ghana to the primary school of Nasamba to enhance the education of our people in this community. I think it is commendable to say that we are really appreciative of the efforts of ActionAid when it comes to education. Not quite a long time, they were in my office again to hand over facilities, furniture to some basic schools in the district. And today again, we have gathered to see another important project being handed over to us. That's a big support. It is gargantuan in its form that they have extended to us. For this one, we are so grateful. I think it is going to complement our efforts as an assembly. Assembly has been doing a lot, but it hasn't been enough. It hasn't been sufficient to parry all the challenges that we face in our sector as far as education is concerned. So when we have a development partner like ActionAid coming to our aid, it is only commendable that we acknowledge their efforts. This facility they are handing over to us today is going to reduce the infrastructure deficit that we have in the district. They have also added furniture to it. That, in no small way, will also go to reduce the furniture deficit that we have in our educational sector. So to this end, we are so proud and happy to receive this wonderful donation provided by ActionAid to our district. I think we are all aware, for our government currently, we have identified that education is the bedrock, the foundation of every nation that hopes to prosper. So our government is not giving any chance to providing support to education. And that trickles down from the national level to the district assembly level. If I may tell you, the assembly budget, in terms of percentages, the GES alone takes a very huge percentage of our assembly money. So that shows that we have serious interest in our education. The central government over the years has made every effort to make education accessible to every Ghanaian. That is why, on assumption of office, His Excellency the President Nana Akufo-Addo has rolled out a novel policy in the name of free HSS, which everybody here can testify that it is a policy that has come to reduce poverty and to assist everybody to achieve some level of education. That is not all. At the basic level, we have heard of capitation, school feeding. All these are government policies introduced to enhance education in Ghana. It won't be long. Government will launch again free computers, free laptops to every secondary school child in Ghana. That is also a policy government is going to roll out. And that goes to state the seriousness that government attaches to education in Ghana. This is all to make education accessible so that every Ghanaian at a point must have education attained. So on this note, we would like to thank ActionAid Ghana. I think it's not only ActionAid. There are some other NGOs in the district who support us in various forms. I want to thank them all for being our supporters over the years. I think ActionAid has set a pace, and I will encourage other philanthropic organizations, NGOs, to emulate the examples, to continue to support us so that collectively we will achieve our goals as society, and Mother Ghana will be the ultimate beneficiary. On this note, we thank ActionAid for their gesture.